Will the Las Vegas project get done? And has media played a role in the divide of the A's fan base? Today on Locked On A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I am your host, Booney. One name, all passion. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen of the day. I'm from the Bay Area, and I've been a diehard A's fan since 1981. This isn't just another A's podcast. This is the most informative and insightful show on the A's, period. We cover the A's every single day, breaking down games, delivering the latest team news, and giving you deep, thoughtful analysis you will not find anywhere else. If it's happening in Sacramento or in Las Vegas, we have got you covered. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. And please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button wherever you are following the show. This episode is brought to you in part by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. A's fans, you're angry. I get it. Believe me. Your team is packing its bags and heading to Las Vegas. You feel betrayed. But let's be real here. Your rage has been laser focused on Johnfisher. Yes, the man is about as charismatic as a DMV waiting room. Let's not pretend he's the sole architect of this mess. Fisher is a businessman, not a philanthropist, not a saint, just a guy who inherited a boatload of money and decided to invest in a baseball team. And let's not forget, he's been trying to play ball with Oakland for years. Howard Terminal, that wasn't just a pipe dream. It was a meticulously planned proposal. But in true Oakland fashion, bureaucracy turned into a never-ending episode of Survivor. Environmental reviews, lawsuits, political posturing. It was like watching paint dry, except the paint cost $12 billion. As I was asking Zenny about former Mayor Sheng Thao yesterday, I had these constant flashbacks of angry Oakland fans, Bay Area media, acting like they were best friends with her. She must have been on the local media and or podcast on the daily. But wait, what? You forgot. You forgot about that, didn't you? Of course you did. Because while A's fans and certain numbers of the media are busy sharpening their pitchforks for Fisher, Sheng Thao seems to be getting a free pass. It's like everyone collectively decided that stealing money is somehow less offensive than moving a baseball team. Talk about priorities. You remember how the biased media and angry Oakland fans painted her as a fearless leader who stood up to corporate greed while Fisher is vilified as the villain twirling his mustache in a smoky back room? Give me a break. Now, before you accuse me of being on Fisher's payroll, let me be clear. I'm not saying he's blameless. The man could have done more to engage with fans and make his case publicly. His PR strategy was about as effective as using a paper umbrella in a hurricane. But let's not rewrite history. Oakland had its chance to keep the A's. So where does that leave us? Well, A's fans, you can keep on booing Fisher all the way to Vegas. But maybe save some of that energy for the politicians who let this happen under their watch. And to the Bay Area media, how about we stop playing favorites and start telling the whole story? Maybe Johnfisher is deserving of every bit of backlash and hate. Okay. Mayor Thao gets zero backlash. And Fisher is the con artist. This is just wild. Absolutely wild. The final part was Zenny as we discuss media's role in this fiasco. And what does Zenny think of Vegas? I asked Zenny right off the bat. Will the A's Las Vegas stadium get completed?
I never saw a point where the athletics ballpark in Las Vegas wasn't going to get done. Were there hiccups? Yes. Was Dave Cobble unpopular with the wrong people? Yes. Were these problems able to be solved? Yes. Did the A's solve them? Yes. But you have to understand something. There was a hunger to get done the strategy of sports and economic development, because all those sideshows aside, the simple fact of the matter is that even though gaming revenues have been up, all right, for the most part, the number of people playing has gone down. And if you look at over the long term, it's caused some problems for the long-term viability of certain structures in Las Vegas. So you needed, first they went in the entertainment route, right? And then Mr. Adelson very smartly copied the Disney model and brought it to Las Vegas. So now we're in arguably phase 2 of that process, because it used to be, Bunny, that you had to go to Vegas to gamble. Now, a studio, a casino is 1 hour drive from anywhere, any city, any large city in America.
Yeah, right.
That's an amazing difference.
100% right. Yeah, everywhere.
That's an amazing difference. Okay.
Yeah.
And so Las Vegas, under the direction of economic development director and a guy I've been a fan of for years and proud to say he's a friend of mine, Stephen Hill, he stewarded that long ago when I first became in contact with him in 2010 when I started covering CES Las Vegas. Las Vegas manages its economy in a way that Oakland used to, way back in the 90s and the 80s, but stopped doing in the 21st century. In every city, you asked me about Las Vegas. How did Las Vegas start their process? What did they do? They created a special organization called the Southern Nevada Tourism and Infrastructure Committee. We used to have task forces. We used to do the same thing. And I keep saying to people, I don't care if you want to or not, look back at what we used to do before the year 2000. That was the model.
Why do you believe that MLB prioritized Vegas as a viable market? Gambling, huh?
Gambling, because this goes back to a study that was done by a professor at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I have a copy of it in 2014. Actually 2013, Mark Davis got a hold of it. That showed how sports gambling could be done, taking out all of the improprieties and all the corruption. Mark Davis brought that up to Eric Grubman, who was head of NFL. He was the point person for the NFL's relocation program. I actually lobbied to have his job, not knowing it was going to be him. I did that in 2012, but that's another long story. At any rate, point I'm making is that, coming back to the matter of of engineering this matter in my conversations with Las Vegas people and Grubman and Mark Davis and the Raiders, that document was the one where Mark Davis said, we can get this done in Las Vegas. But it wasn't really until, and this has to do with the A's too, actually, and I was there when it happened, the vote in Houston didn't go Mark's way. And on Zenny 62 YouTube, I have that press conference where Mark Davis walked in, and instead of saying, I'm going to keep the A's, I'm going to keep the Raiders in Oakland, we will find a home
right
for this team. He didn't say Oakland. I thought, oh, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And that he had Las Vegas in his mind, because I then later found out that just 2 weeks before that, he already had a plan to travel to Las Vegas to check out at the behest of Napoleon Kaufman, who was a Raider who worked for Las Vegas Sands.
Okay.
He had already promised to come in and check out what was going on in the valley there and with their ideas and proposals. And that was by Sheldon Adelson, who's one of the richest people in the world. How can you refuse him, right? And that's really what got the ball started. That eventually impacted the athletic situation.
There's a lot of skepticism with regard to the A's reported financial losses on the team. Can you shed a little light on how these figures might have been manipulated to justify the move? And do you think they were?
No, because how can it? You know, people talk about this. They never talk about the pandemic at all. It's like the pandemic never happened. You know, that's what I think is so ludicrous about this whole thing, among other things. If you look at the attendance for the athletics, you put that up there, right?
Yes.
There's a year, 2020. It's blank. Okay. It's blank. Prior to that, 1.6 million. Okay. And if you take a look at the attendance figures, it's actually rising.
Yeah.
Okay. What could they have been better? Could they have been at the level like I think it was 2 million in 2013? Sure, but they weren't. All right. The bottom line is that what happened after that, they were at 700,000.
Sure.
I mean, you talk about a haircut. That's like getting your head cut off. I mean, it's crazy. And then the A's make less money, obviously, and their sponsorships are impacted and everything else. Yeah. And yet, hey, the players aren't running around saying, "Oh, by the way, we'll take less because we understand you have a situation." And the city is not saying, "Oh, by the way," and neither is the Coliseum JPA saying, "You know what? We understand you have a situation, so we'll help you out by sharing revenue with you by other events we take in," which would be a novel idea.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
No one lifted a hand to help them. It's like, you're rich and you're a billionaire.
Yes.
People do not come in to be billionaires to lose their money.
Yeah.
And it's stupid to think that they do. And I don't want anybody doing that with me. If I make a bunch of money, well, you got a lot of money, so you have to lose it. I mean, come on, give me a break. Investment, sure. But the idea of a sports facility is that it's an engine to make money for the teams that play within it. If it doesn't do that, and provide enough money for the public to have community events and everything, it's not doing its job. All right, it's not doing its job at all.
This episode is brought to you in part by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House, whether you are in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. You need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you will always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Oakland struggles as far as getting things done, and what seems to be just a streamlined process in Vegas. What do you compare the two? Obviously, in California, it's just real hard to get things done. Red tape. In Vegas, it seems. Why is there such a divide? Why is there such a gap?
Because culturally, well, here, I think in fairness and defense of the Bay Area and Oakland, there's a lot of beautiful land. to protect,
Okay.
and a constituency has been built up around that. No question about it. Okay.
I got you.
But what happens in Oakland's case is that culturally, we're slow to react to someone from the outside saying, oh, by the way, you need to do this so that, or get this in on time so that you can get a Super Bowl, or you can get this on time so you can get financing to build this ballpark or this bond issue. We've been notoriously late wherever you look. All right. I give credit to Oakland Mayor Libby Schaff on the Raiders issue, but even then she was late on getting a viable plan put together. She didn't partner with the National Football League, all right, who wanted to buy the property for a nominal fee. They wanted to milk the NFL. So why do you want to milk the NFL as opposed to having them develop there, right?
Yeah.
In Vegas,
right.
you don't have that problem. You don't have people saying, oh, we're going to do that. They have the appropriate understanding of what happens when you build something and you get the economic throw-off from it. And not only that, Las Vegas has a culture that way back in 2010, when I started covering CES Las Vegas, as I've done annually, I called it the real Epcot, the real experimental prototype community of tomorrow, always allowing new structures to be built, some ahead of their time, like Sphere. The culture there allows that. And really, it's exciting. You know, it really is. They have to get the affordable housing matters, but I think they'll get all that, you know, straightened out because now they have the growth to deal with and the rancor. But the culture from a developer standpoint is really beautiful.
Scotty Rubin, I believe his name is. Rubin.
Yeah. Vital Vegas.
Vital Vegas.
Yeah.
He argues that sports should not be a central tool for economic growth, yet Las Vegas has successfully leveraged teams like the Raiders to boost its economy. How do you see the A's fitting in to this larger narrative?
Well, first,
and do you agree? And do you agree with what he says?
No, I have a lot of respect for Scott. He's blocked me, though. We were friends at one point, talked quite a bit, you know. Yeah. But I started saying that I felt that he was being compromised by somebody paying him to maintain that point of view. And look, if you want to look at it blankly, he's got sponsors. He says what he says. He gets money. Okay. Gotcha. Now, he's just simply, but basically, then he turns around and says, all right, I don't, you know, I have more respect for if he just said, I hate the thing, rather than making fake news about it. All right.
Sure.
I love the guy as a part of Vegas culture. No question about it. But on this specific issue, I powerfully disagree. And my point is, and I'm just making it pointed because I don't hate the guy. All right. At all. My point is simply this. Shale Nadelson started this whole process. It would seem indirect, but it's very direct. When he got Mark Davis into Las Vegas and and then got an army of Las Vegas Sands lobbyists to twist the collective arm of the Nevada legislature to cough up $750 million,
right?
What we now call Allegiant Stadium. Okay, why did Mr. Adelson do that? Because first of all, he saw the internet and internet gambling, and he said that's going to be the death of what we're doing. He recognized that a long time ago, and then on top of that, the other thing that was happening, for want of a better term, that really bothered Mr. Adelson. Was the fact that the Nevada government was planning what was called a Southern Nevada Tourism and Infrastructure Commission to then put a ton of money into a gigantic expansion of the Las Vegas Convention Center, which is publicly owned, which competes with his privately owned right next door Las Vegas Sands.
Okay.
Expo. Okay. So he thought, I've got to stop this, which is why he brought the Raiders in. What did it do? It basically it took a significant proportion of the per dollar tax that was being paid from hotel taxes, and it diverted it to something that had nothing to do with a convention center on its face. A football or a team, right? Okay. And so by doing that, he set the stage in terms of this process for what the A's enjoyed. And basically, we take a look at what happened with what the now in place Las Vegas Stadium Authority did. It was just simply Raiders number 2. You know, it was just simply, okay, we've already done this process. We could do it again. Guy Hobbs.
Yes.
my friend who's been on my show,
Yes.
and was the mastermind behind the bond issue, both bond issues, and really constructed a genius bonding structure that survived an initial hiccup. How I became so great friends with them, I wrote a piece, and long story short, I forecasted that they would not have enough money to cover the debt service of the bond issue, the Raiders bond issue. But Guy, and what happened was Guy and I made a kind of a deal. I had a bunch of stadium spreadsheets along with tax increment financing and different types of financing systems within it, and he didn't have anything regarding state how it would work. So I made a trade. I said, look, I'll give you this. You tell me everything I need to know and then some.
Is that right, huh?
And yeah, that's how I wound up breaking so many stories.
Wow.
We made that deal.
Yeah.
And so as another way of saying thanks, he presented me to Jessica Colvin, who was the Clark County finance director then and is still now. And we had a great meeting about my forecast that they were not going to have enough money. She says, well, I think the waterfall is going to help. And I said, according to my calculations, that's not going to happen.
This episode is brought to you in part by Game Time. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. And if you are looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever with last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as game time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On A's, and as the A's home opener is coming up, I can count on them to help grab tickets that meet my needs. I recently grabbed last-minute tickets for a game, and Game Time had unbeatable prices, which meant more money for food and merchandise. This makes finding the best deals effortless. How about the Game Time Picks feature? This makes finding the best deals effortless. It filters out the fluff and highlights the top discounts in the stadium. The seat view before you buy. I love that I can preview my exact seat before purchasing. No bad surprises when I get to the stadium. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. What time is it? Game Time. Zenny, what's the Bay Area media reporting it the way they are doing it? So I'm okay with their opinion and whatever it may be, but they seem to be missing just huge chunks of the story that aren't giving us an opportunity to base our own opinion. For example, Casey Pratt knows this stuff. He's been around this stuff since the beginning. And for me, it feels like he has intentionally left out details.
Well, he intentionally left out details because, well, look what it got him. It got him a job with the city. Right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. No, I mean, I love Casey, but the fact of the fact is the fact. He got it was short term. And I said, hey man, enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah.
It didn't last long. But he was playing that hilt. But again, taking Casey out of it.
Larry Beal, for example, I mean, he came up with that strong take on the news with regard to the letter. For example, before I even looked into it, I don't know hardly anything. I had the same exact take as everybody else because
Bunny, you got to think about something. They gave him time to do that. And here's the other problem. Media is not making a lot of money. And so you expect the traditional media to do all this work as opposed to saying, hey, look, how can we get more money for Zenny 62 media? Right? Or you're right. Yeah. Okay. Because that's the reality. The reality is that they don't have the money that they used to and can't begin to satisfy all of the demands that people want on them. There aren't a lot of them. There just aren't. So the media itself has changed in that way. And yet they're saying, well, how do we survive? This media driven by angry fans.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that you have media organizations that, look, they want to pay their freight. So what do? You gin up the fan base because you know that the fan base is going to visit your site. They're going to watch your program. And that translates into ad dollars. So they're just playing politics with the fans.
That was all about, huh?
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Cha-ching. They're not opposing them because they know that if they oppose them, they could lose viewers. And so guess what? You got this echo chamber of these ridiculous takes, making everybody think, oh, this thing isn't going to get done, and then playing along with people like Scott, who have a vested interest by investors, I hold that, to put out this idea is not going to get done, even though it's getting done. And on top of all that, Bunny, none of these folks know how development works anyway. Okay?
Yeah.
So you've got the blind leading the blind leading the blind.
The other thing I don't understand,
it's not going to get done. It gets, meanwhile, the A's are applying the trade of getting it done and working with great Las Vegas and Nevada legislators and lobbyists and consultants. They had a star chamber. Scott was trying to point to some recent photograph and saying they're not doing anything. See, they're exploding caliche in the ground.
Yeah.
And the same trick was done when the Raiders working on what we now call Allegiant Stadium. They're blowing up the caliche, right? And oh, it's not getting done. It is getting done. It's a development. You have to regrade the land and you have to do all this other stuff that takes time.
Yeah.
But then they'll have the groundbreaking later this year, and you know then they'll say, oh, it's fake, and then they'll start putting caissons in the ground, and then all that stuff. They'll say, oh, it's fake, and then when the superstructure starts, then they'll shut up. That's the process. I remember Joe Vasquez of Channel 5 told me this 12 years ago. He says, anywhere living on borrowed time, because if you actually start looking at data, they don't get the viewers that they used to. All right. So, I mean, if you want to use a Blazing Saddles term and basically say, well, how do we keep our phony baloney jobs? That kind of joke actually applies. If you see the movie, you'll get what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that you're asking media to do a job that it doesn't have the money to do, and people are getting laid off left and right.
This episode is brought to you in part by Just Ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they are free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I love that Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. Whether you are recovering after a workout or need an energy boost, their grass-fed wheat protein and pre-workout deliver real results. Visit justingredients.us/Bryce-Harper and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off your order. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram.
Okay. New media is like, hey, look, I have a voice, I'll say it, and if I make the right comment at the right time, I can move legislation. And that's true for anybody who, uses this form of media. And so it's a big difference. But the bottom line is that A's fans were content it became this circular relationship. A's fans were already angry at Johnfisher. Sheng knew it. So her first thing was, what did she do? She blasts Johnfisher. What does she do? She gins up the fans. She goes to all these rallies, right? She really plays the hilt, okay?
Yeah.
So they're more on her side, and then they're more on her. Then she's, supporting them, and she's got Casey in her back pocket, and then all this other stuff, okay? It was awful. It was the blind leading the blind. And look what happened.
Why do you think Fisher, Cavill, the A's never came out publicly and defended their stance and where they're coming from? I mean, one of their biggest critics was they were so silent. They didn't talk. They didn't have to. Dolich put it in a perfect sense when I listened to one of your talks. They are a private entity, yet they can be public if they choose, like other owners have been. I believe he worded it something similar to that. I'm paraphrasing. Why do you think that? For 18 years, he hasn't talked, and he had an opportunity to come out and defend his stance.
If you feel like you're not being heard and the media is taking your words and twisting them, the local media, because they're trying to curry favor with the fans, and yet
I get it.
you're on parallel paths.
Yeah, I get it.
So you're saying, hey, look, I got this other path I need to work on.
I get it. No, absolutely. No, absolutely. You're right. I mean, the whole thing is just so.
Yeah, it's not. No, it's terrible, and it's hurt Oakland, and yet what the biggest problem, Bunny, is we don't seem to want to learn from it at all. We just keep making the same mistakes of not having task forces, not planning, not working together, allowing situations to be over-politicized, looking for a mayor that will save us when the real problem is the morale of the city itself is in the tank.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Is the criticism of Fisher and everything are we talking more of a cultural issue, as far as it's always been culturally since we've been around? It's always been rich against poor.
Yeah.
And he has received so much backlash for that. Are we talking more of a cultural, social issue than we are really about a baseball stadium and an owner trying to leave and make more money?
I think where John made the mistake was in not, and he should not have done this being a good golden bear, as we both are, all right? He should not have discounted the impact that so many Oaklanders are feeling because of high housing costs, the number of homeless, and how not addressing that has warped the culture to a point where you can't talk to someone about a sports team and they're saying we can't afford it, as opposed to, hey, how does tax increment financing work? Here's how it could get done. Here's how we can take investment, all that complicated stuff, right? Okay. But the fact that, people were having a hard time paying the rent, or they might see someone living in these high rises in Oakland that have opened, right? But not knowing that many of those high rises are not even half filled. And then you have this group of people that, let's say, they say, oh, it's 6 months free mint. So you know what they do, buddy? They go in for 6 months. Then after 6 months, they leave. And so now we've had developers that have had to, file bankruptcy because of what has not happened in downtown Oakland. So what John should have done is put together a task force. And I said to David Cowell, put together a task force of business people in Oakland. Get your own, get your own posse together, your own constituency, right?
Yeah, right.
And have them advocate for you, because you're getting raped by over the coals. But he didn't do that. He wanted Dave to talk, or him. And the Republican and billionaires in Oakland, that's a bad mix.
Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast with host Dominic Martino and Matthew Onai. MLB fantasy draft season is here. Be the most informed fan and set yourself up for a league win. Find Locked On Fantasy on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts.